Yeah, okay. I see we've got a few people joining and probably a little bit more, and so maybe I'll go ahead and get us started. For everybody that's joining us, my name's Ken Smith. I'm a rocket scientist with Rocket Pool, and I have the pleasure of hosting, along with my colleague Jasper, these Rocket Pool community calls. And I'm joined today by our community manager, Mav, and we have a special guest today from dForce Protocol. Andrea, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So thanks for inviting me. Thanks everyone for being here. Ken, I'm not sure you're actually a rocket guy, or is that just a name they gave you at Rocket Pool? I'm curious to know that before we proceed.
Yeah, no, it's just a moniker. We used to be called, I believe, community educators, if I remember the title back then. It's just somebody who's knowledgeable of the protocol and is willing to kind of share that knowledge to help others either understand Rocket Pool or themselves become a node operator on Ethereum using the Rocket Pool software.
Awesome. Okay, I suspected it was what I wanted to clarify. Okay, so my name is Andrea. I've been involved in the crypto space since early 2020, and since then I've had the opportunity to work as a marketing manager for a variety of projects. I recently embarked on a new chapter by joining the exceptional team at dForce as a marketing manager, where I'm responsible for developing and executing marketing strategies to drive the growth and awareness of our protocol. Now, this said, I can wait to tell you more about what we're building at dForce and how we integrated our ETH. But that's a really brief introduction about myself.
Yeah, well, excellent, and thank you very much for introducing you. And I was kind of remiss, and I usually have a short one-liner for our community, and I always do a little bit of research on the protocols. And I understand that dForce is a complete set of decentralized finance protocols that covers a number of aspects, including assets, lending, trading, and serving the DeFi community as an infrastructure Web3 component. I wonder if you could maybe give us a little bit more background and introduction as to what is dForce?
Absolutely, and you got it right. So, dForce has a rich history dating back to 2019, and we have around $200 million worth of total assets. dForce is a decentralized stablecoin protocol powered by an integrated DeFi matrix. So as you said, the matrix is composed by our assets, our lending protocol, which we're going to talk about more later, and as well as our integrated bridge to move dETH and USX tokens on all the blockchains we deploy to, which are a bunch of them, such as Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, Avalanche, Kava, ZKC, Conflux, and Base. And we're always looking forward for new chains to deploy to. At the heart of dForce DeFi matrix lies USX, which is a decentralized stablecoin that is designed with the principle of permissionlessness and non-custodianship at its core. What sets USX apart in its capital efficiency, thanks to its integrations with our matrix. And I think this makes it a very suitable choice for DeFi enthusiasts on all the chains that we support. So in essence, dForce is the backbone for USX, which is this stablecoin. But we also do much more. We are a comprehensive DeFi suite that includes lending, swaps, and bridges, etc., etc. Our lending protocol facilitates the borrowing and lending of various assets, including Rocket Pool's rETH. And I would also like to mention that just last week, a new proposal called the dForce X Plan was approved by our governance. And that's probably a big, interesting change, which I hope I will be able to talk about later in this call.
Yeah, no, those are definitely some areas that we'd like to explore. One thing would be kind of interesting. I'd appreciate your comment on is generally when I've looked at a lot of other DeFi protocols that are integrating with Rocket Pool or that we've had on these community calls, it all seems that they tend to specialize in one area. Maybe they're a bridging platform or a bridging company. Maybe the next one is a lending company. Maybe the next one is a lending or DEX aggregator. They all seem to kind of specialize in one component or area, but I found it kind of interesting that dForce's approach, at least from my view of it, seemed to be more integrated with multiple solutions. Would you mind just commenting a little bit about that? Is that a correct observation? And what were some of the reasons for taking that approach versus specializing in one area?
Absolutely. So that's a correct observation, and thank you for the question. So our view is that as there are Web2 super apps such as WeChat in China, and there are many more in other mostly Asian countries, even though now Elon Musk wants to do this X app in the West, we will see about that. Our idea is that as in the Web2, there are these super apps that are driven where you can, call a taxi, call the delivery, send money to your friends, chat, and use it as a social network. You can basically do everything. As these Web2 super apps are driven by customer attention and needs, we are trying to bring this concept of super apps in DeFi, where the pivot is liquidity instead. So we're building a series of protocols in order to maximize the efficiency of the liquidity, which can be used on our different protocols on all the blockchains that we deploy to. And because we think that this is also a trend that we are pursuing since the very beginning, but which we're noticing is becoming also very popular. Like it's difficult to mention a top 10 DeFi protocol that is only doing one thing. We're seeing more and more protocols expanding their offers. And there are like many, many examples of that. Think of Frax Finance, think of Uniswap, which also invested in NFT and in the NFT marketplace, but really the list goes on and on.
Yeah, yeah, I think that is probably a trend we're seeing is the more diversification of DeFi protocols. Now, there's maybe two things that are kind of interest that are bringing you here specifically under the Rocket Pool call. One of those is I read recently that the dForce community has recently decided to list rETH on your lending platform. Wondered if you could share maybe a little bit about that.
Sure. So once the DIP, which is obviously dForce Improvement Proposal number 56, was approved by our governance, we added support to rETH on our lending protocol on Ethereum, Arbitrum, and Optimism. This happened at the end of last month, in September 2023. We set a loan to value of 70%, meaning that those who deposit rETH on dForce lending as collateral will be able to borrow assets for up to 70% of the value of the rETH deposited. There are a lot of assets available in our lending protocol that can be borrowed, including USX, which I mentioned earlier, or ETH, which can be borrowed to maybe leverage Rocket Pool so that you supply our ETH, you borrow ETH, you use the ETH to mint new rETH, and you repeat the process. In general, there's a lot of opportunities available that dForce lending unlocks and allows, and I invite everyone to check them out at dForce.network. But yeah, I mean, everything we do is led by the governance, and I was happy to see that the vote passed to add support for rETH passed.
Yeah, and I wondered if you could maybe expand upon that. You mentioned one of the use cases where you could actually deposit rETH, borrow ETH, and then, of course, mint more rETH and repeat the process. I think commonly I've heard that described as looping. Does your interface support that natively, where it's like a one-click or one-sign looping, or is it something that somebody would manually have to rinse and repeat over and over again to get that kind of looped iterations?
Okay, yeah, unfortunately, you will have to loop it yourself, right? We don't have a fast function to maximize your to loop it 5 times automatically, but that's probably something that I might mention to the team to be working on, even though if it's quite a common practice. I've seen it in elsewhere. But for now, we prefer to keep it so that you have to do it manually.
Okay. A couple of follow-up questions on the lending side. I guess one of the ones is what prompted dForce to consider rETH for listing, and how does the inclusion of rETH on your protocol align with your platform's goals and strategies?
Sure. So we are super bullish on the LSD liquid staking derivatives sector. Uh, because it's a great sector that has been grown since the merge, but also because LSD has proven that there is a way to make illiquid assets liquid. And this example is also opening up doors for tokenizing real world assets, which is a trend that dForce is very interested in, and that we think will bring billions in the DeFi TVL in the coming years. But about LSD in particular, there is a meaningful amount of demand for borrowing against LSD. And we have done it in the past. For example, we have worked with Light of Finance, and we are like the top 3 holder of WST ETH on Optimism. So just to mention one. So we are interested, as dForce as a protocol, we're interested in a number of fields, including LSD and RWA, for example. But LSD in particular, I think it's one of the leaders, the main trends of this year and the past one. And that's why we are doing a number of initiatives to onboard capital coming from LSD users. So this is just the last one, and more will come, and many have come before this one.
Oh, interesting. Very. And I know one of the concerns a lot of people have when they take a collateralized debt position with one of the protocols is if there's a difference between the product they deposit and the product that they withdraw or they borrow against. If there's a price difference, there's always a chance of liquidation. You mentioned you allow loans up to a 70% value. What is your liquidation kind of threshold, and do you offer any tools to monitor that position to prevent people from getting liquidated, or do you integrate with other protocols like DeFi Saver? How does that work?
No, we're not integrated with DeFi Saver. You will have to check your position yourself. And yeah, I mean, you always be careful with the position. Also, looping is also a strategy that is available, but it requires you to be careful with your liquidity available and how to unlock the situation. But overall, if you use rETH and ETH, you should be quite safe, and that's why we allow a loan to value of up to 70%.
Oh, got it. Yeah, because they're two correlated assets, meaning if the price of ETH changes, the price of rETH probably will change in a very comparative manner. So you shouldn't change too much your debt position or your debt ratio. Let me ask another question here. You had mentioned earlier on in the call about another initiative that is coming forward that you think might be of interest to the Rocket Pool community. Would you like to explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. Okay, so as I said last week, the dForce X plan was approved. The X plan sets the basis for dForce to spin off multiple of its primitives, with each having its own token and tokenomics while being interconnected with the rest of the ecosystem. So the first derivative to be spinned off will probably be our lending protocol, which will go under the management of the Unitus finance team. While a migration for the assets in the lending protocol will not be needed, I invite you to follow dForce and Unitus finance to stay updated. The X plan will enable dF token to stop being used for providing liquidity incentives and to become a token that accrues part of the value of its ecosystem, other than being the governance token for dForce. Despite the spin-off, dForce will still enjoy interlock liquidity as a DeFi matrix. So, in brief, the X plan sets the future, the next steps for dForce, whereas our primitives being like the stable coin, as well as bridging and the lending, it's all to be defined, but each of these primitives can be spin off to a whole new protocol with new incentives, with new tokenomics, and everything will be interconnected. And we will make this very smooth so that you can use the dForce lending protocol today, and you will be sure that you won't have to migrate in a couple of weeks. So there shouldn't be a concern. But it's a very big step. I think this fixes a couple of problems with dForce being like given us liquidity incentives. I think this provides the basis for a more organic ecosystem.
Oh, excellent. That does sound kind of pretty interesting to check out. And I'm trying to just reconcile it a little bit here with the previous discussion about that dForce is beginning to look like for lack of a better word, I'll just call it a DeFi aggregator, a single platform. But it sounds like it's going to be maybe a single platform of affiliated protocols in this kind of separation of governance or duties. Maybe can you just explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so all the protocols will be interconnected. There will be a lot of synergies, and dF will be in the middle of this. But it's common to see some protocols call it sub-DAO, some protocols call it they just rebrand and they call it in other names. But what we're doing is just spinning off our derivatives and giving them a new name, giving them a new project, and once our governance approves that, then a new protocol can starting from our smart contract, which are battle tested, being there since 2019. They're audited by the best firms. So we hope that we can create a mix of, reliability, which is our DeFi matrix, as well as innovation, which is what the new ecosystem, the new system of incentives and synergies can bring us.
Okay. And then are there any other potential collaborative efforts between Rocket Pool and dForce beyond just the listing of rETH?
Sure. I mean, we might explore that. We are applying for the next kind of votes that you hold to incentivize the use of rETH on different DeFi platforms. So you will probably hear from us, once we apply, and then we will be up to the scrutiny of you and your governance.
All right, excellent. And then given the growth and evolution of both our projects, are there any things that we haven't covered yet in today's call that you feel is important for the Rocket Pool community to know about dForce?
I think we covered mostly everything. I mean, there will be a lot to talk about, how great you guys are doing and how great the LSD sector is growing and how it's here to stay. But I think we covered all the main points.
Okay. And if somebody wanted to find out more about dForce or communicate with you or other members of the team, what's the best way for them to do so?
Sure. So there is the dForce main account joining Discord. So if you click on it, I think you can just follow it in a click. Also, the URL for our website is dforce.network. And from there, you can find our Discord, Telegram, Medium, Twitter, everything. And we're always happy and proactive to help you if you have any questions about the onboarding of rETH, any question about the X plan, any question in general, really.
Excellent. And then any plans on attending any of the upcoming conferences in the near future? I know our community always looks forward to a number of these. Where can they find you in real life at any of these crypto conferences?
That's a good question. We just attended the Singapore Token 2049 event, and I'm not sure about the next ones. We usually see how's the vibes of the events that have been organized, and we decide to participate to one rather than another. So I cannot tell you right now what are the next events we're attending, but obviously we will announce those that we attend on our community on our social media.
Yeah, perfectly. And I understand that you have to kind of choose wisely on the events coming up here. But Andrea, it's been great having you share with us a little bit about dForce and to meet you on today's community call. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Ken, the pleasure was mine. Thank you for interviewing me. I hope I wasn't too long or, I didn't talk too much. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to defaults, but all I can do is just give you a brief introduction and invite you to check more and ask questions if you have any. Thank you again for your hospitality, and I look forward to collaborate on a deeper level in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're welcome. You're more than welcome to stay and listen to the rest of this call if you like. But I understand if you need a drop. If not, you're always welcome to come into the Rocket Pool Discord. Most of the community hangs out in the trading channel. And always feel free to drop a line and share the latest integrations that you have with dForce.
Absolutely. I will do that. Thank you.
All right. And Mav, do we have you back on the call?
Yes, sir. Still here.
Still here. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. I was impressed on your ability to multitask. I was like, wait, there's a tweet going out and Mav's on the call at the same time. What is going on here? But how are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. But also pretty busy. We've just yesterday finalized everything when it comes to Istanbul, at least in terms of tickets and attendance and flights and all of that. So yeah, hence the ping in the protocol channel. We're really starting to get into the next stage of planning everything out. We will have a community kind of casual meetup event type thing. Some pretty good food over there in Istanbul. So if you are going to be in town, please follow along from that ping in the protocol channel, or you can go directly to the conferences channel and indicate your presence. It's combining, Dev Connect and the staking rewards, staking summit. I'm expecting some people may have kind of varying dates that they're going to be around for. So we just need to get a good idea in terms of when it's best to have this community catch up. So please, drop the thumbs up, and that'll help us a lot in our planning. I know you'll be there, Ken, but it'd be great to see more community members.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to not only attending the conference, but as you said, just meeting as many of the Rocket Pool community as possible. I'm excited for the opportunity to meet some more of the European crowd that perhaps didn't have a chance to meet up at ETH Denver. I guess it was earlier this year. I almost said last year. But now tell me a little bit more. Yeah, I know it's like time is flying here. But so tell me a little bit more about what you can and can't share. I know for OPSEC reasons or whatever. But which of the team pulled the lucky straws and gets to attend Istanbul?
Okay, so there will be 4 of us total attending. Dave won't be coming to this one. The main constraint that we have is around, of course, audits for Houston. They will be kicking off not long after Istanbul kind of finishes. So we need to have a bit of a presence still in the office, so to speak, to keep things ticking along, especially when you consider flight time from and back to Australia and the jet lag that's usually involved. It can eat up quite a lot of time. For this trip being, I guess, about the same as Singapore, but having that extra flight involved. I think all up it's almost 24 hours, including a transit in the Middle East to get between Australia and Istanbul. So Dave will be staying behind along with Nick, and then obviously Joe, it's a little bit difficult for him to travel outside of the US, so he will also be holding down the fort. That means that Langers, myself, Kane, and Grant will be in town. So there'll be 4 from the Rocket Pool team, and should be enough to kind of do the divide and conquer that we do at these events. There's a couple of side events going on, and Dev Connect is fairly decentralized in terms of all the different events that are taking place. Contrasting to, for example, Singapore, where there was for ETH Singapore and Token 2049, one main event at one location. That's not the same for Assemble. So as a result, if you're there for at least the ETH Staker gathering, we may not all be on site at the same time, but if you come along to this community event we're planning, you'll be sure to meet everyone, and be great to chat over a beer and something to eat.
Yeah, I guess that is something interesting for those that have never attended. Now, this will be my first time at Dev Connect, but what I understand from studying the website and talking to many others there is that the Ethereum Foundation, when they sponsor Dev Connect, it's more of just a time and place or time and city, and then they arrange a list of a lot of venues, and then each protocol or grouping of people, organization, decides to host their own mini conference, usually a day or sometimes at the most 2 days long. And there are probably, without exaggeration, more than 2 or 3 dozen of these things that are listed on the Dev Connect website. And you kind of choose your own adventure. You decide, I guess it expands from, a better part of 7 days, and you choose, on Monday or Tuesday, I want to go to this conference. On Wednesday, I want to get a ticket to this one. And you kind of choose your own adventure through all these different mini conferences and topics. Is that a fair understanding?
Yeah, that's the one. And thankfully, while that can sound a little bit complicated and confusing, as you've said, the Dev Connect website does a pretty good job of breaking it down in the schedule. You can get to that pretty easily from the Dev Connect website if you just search for Dev Connect. Or you can go to devconnect.org/schedule, and then you can see a breakdown by day with all the, looking at it right now, it does seem to be 2 to 3 dozen events. There's a lot going on. For the start of Dev Connect on 13, 14, right? 13th, 14th November, that'll be the ETH staking gathering. So our presence will be mostly there. Then for Wednesday, there is a side event that at the very least Langers will attend, and that's the Nethermind Summit. I believe it's still listed under the Dev Connect schedule. And then when it comes to Thursday, at that point, we're probably going to start heading back. Not sure if we'll have any time to attend events on the Thursday. It might just be straight to the airport. But yeah, again, we do have this pretty important protocol upgrade coming along, and that needs to be prioritized. So
yeah, and I guess I should also mention that coincidentally, I don't know if it was intentional or not. It'd be interesting to hear the story, but there's another staking conference that is just on the cusp of Dev Connect, right? So Dev Connect is maybe the official EF organized gathering, right, in which each of these individual protocols or communities creates their own little mini conferences and puts it on the Dev Connect website. But just literally the days before, I believe it's the Friday and Saturday, if I recall correctly. Maybe it's the Thursday and Friday. I'm going to have to look at my notes here. Right before is something called the Staking Summit, which I think is sponsored by Staking Rewards or hosted or organized by Staking Rewards. It's their only second time they're doing their conference. They did it last year in Portugal, and it was highly recommended. I think a lot of people attended it in the staking community, And that was actually what first drew my interest to Istanbul. And then all of a sudden, it turns out DevConnect is happening literally the days right after the staking summits on the 10th and the 11th. Do you want to talk about that? And is the team going to the staking summit?
That's probably a good. It's probably good to clarify that, because there are these two events that are pretty close together with somewhat similar names. I'm sure one of them would have been planned around the other. It would make sense if the staking summit was kind of timed to sit just before DevConnect. That would probably make sense. I know that, for example, ETH Singapore did the same thing around Token 2049. So yeah, two different events arranged by different entities. The staking summit is an event being run by Staking Rewards. So you may have been to the Staking Rewards website. That is who is running this staking summit. And I guess if I had to explain the difference, the ETH Staker event is more, I would say, of a community gathering. It's more likely to be, for example, content there around running a node from home, really focusing on the decentralization aspects. If you know anything about ETH Staker, they like decentralized and permissionless solutions to staking where possible. By contrast, the Staking Rewards Summit, that has more scope to include some of the say more centralized or potentially institution-facing solutions. So I would say a little bit of a wider focus. Both look like they're going to be very well attended. So if you are going to be in Istanbul and you can either, you still have time to book your flights, or you can move them, or maybe you're already going to both. It's probably going to be worthwhile, especially considering that we do have a quite
substantial
discount available.
Yeah. Am I reading that 90%? Is that what you posted? Is that a mistake?
It is not a mistake. So there are a couple of different tickets available for the staking summit. There's like a silver one and a gold one that gives you a little bit a few additional benefits. But regardless, there's a 90% discount available if you are a node operator. So that is the catch. There is a limit on this. I can't remember the exact number that was provided. I think it was like the first 50 applicants or something like that. And there is a deadline of 22nd November. Not sure on the exact time zone or hour cutoff, but regardless, you should probably, if you're interested, get in sooner rather than later. There's a form linked in the protocol announcements channel, and there's a few requirements to fill that out in terms of I think providing some information. There may be email address or Twitter or Telegram or something along those lines, and they also want some evidence of your node setup. So long as you're comfortable with providing all of that, you might as well avail yourself of that pretty generous discount. They want to get as many people, node operators along as possible. So just a couple days to go before that closes. If you've got any questions, feel free to ping me in Discord.
Yeah, I'm excited for both. Like I said, I've only heard very good things about the Staking Rewards Staking Summit. I'm looking forward to it. I know a number of people I respect in the industry are planning on attending, so I'm hoping the content is good, and at least to just convene and spend time with them. And then certainly any e-staking event has always been exceptional. Knowing a little bit about the lineup, I think they've got some of their agenda up on there. I think those first 2 days of the DevConnect, if you're certainly in the Rocket Pool community, I'd highly recommend choosing the ETH Staker event for your definitely for your Monday. on the Tuesday, I think I'd still recommend it, although I did see that there were some pretty other interesting competing conferences going on at the same time, especially in kind of like the zero knowledge area and so forth. So I certainly understand if it's hard to kind of choose your own adventure, because they seem to put all the good conferences on the same day of the week. Anything else, Mav, that we should talk about Istanbul? You had mentioned a little bit about maybe a rocket pool meetup, perhaps something a little bit more informal, drinks and some food or something like that. Anything on that been kind of finalized or fleshed out, or is it going to just be more of a spur of the moment event when we get there?
I've already got a couple of ideas floating around in terms of locations and what we could do. It will be pretty informal. The important thing that we need to lock this in, though, is just to get an indication from people on their attendance, if you're going to be around, like what dates, and this is how you can help us out in the conference channel in Discord, or follow the link from the protocol announcements channel, just to give an indication of when you're going to be there, so we make sure we can book this in when we can get as many people as possible.
All right. And does the team need any support from the community members, either people to help and set up, or boothing, or just even unpacking swag, or anything like that you guys need?
So yeah, we may need a little bit of help across the dates of the ETH Staker gathering. For that event, we do have some sponsorship, and that includes a booth. It may turn out to be similar to Singapore, where one of us will kind of man the booth at all times, and we might not need to do a roster style like ETH Denver earlier in the year, but we'll see how we go and get an idea of who will be attending. It'll help us to sort that out. So yeah, if you are able to help out a little bit, we may get in touch if you're indicating that you're going to be around. I think first step will be to get an idea of numbers, and then from there we can kind of go to planning out in a bit more detail, even though we're 3 weeks until we get on the plane. So as I said before, it's a pretty busy time right now.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I want to make certain we have some time for other things here, but also on the conferences update is ETH Denver. I know that one's still out in February, but I know as soon as you get back from Istanbul, it's going to be probably all the focus on ETH Denver. But anything at the moment on ETH Denver that you want to share with the group, or is it pretty much on the back burner right now?
Yeah, that's still kind of in a bit of a holding pattern until we get through Istanbul. But yeah, as soon as we're out the other side of that, it'll be straight into Denver. By that point, let's see, coming up to the end of November, yeah, it'll be 3 months at that point. So yeah, fun times. And of course, with Christmas and New Year in between, that won't help either. But yeah, we'll expect it to run relatively similar to last time if you were there. So shouldn't be too many surprises.
Yeah, except I've been hearing they're expecting much larger crowds this year, even in a bear market. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting to start kind of planning that out a little bit. I'm certainly looking forward to both of these things. I really enjoyed the crypto conference circuit, and just the conversations, the amount of learning, the amount of just really fascinating things is absolutely kind of addicting in some ways, but very, very educational. In terms of team updates here, Mav, anything that we've got a couple of things that are soon TM. Anything you can share with us about any of the things, the new dev hires, the website, perhaps a launch date for Houston or some audit information, the Medium article. I'll kind of let you pick. What can you share and not share?
All right, I've got something pretty good.
Okay, wait, Brad. So you got to post Brad. Okay.
No, it's only for people on the call. We've got a date for the new dev team hire. Is next week. So
Really?
yeah, it's all come together pretty quickly in the end, as these things kind of tend to do. So just a matter of days away until they're going to be full speed ahead. Well, I guess there'll be a bit of a learning curve, but yeah, full speed ahead, helping to develop the protocol even quicker. So looking forward to that. They will not be in Istanbul though, so may need to wait until Denver if you're wanting to do a bit of a meet and greet with them. I don't think I can share the name just yet, but I do know who it is. And it sounds like they, again, from my limited expertise in this area, will be a great asset to the protocol. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. And yeah, I look forward to the official announcement, but it sounds like this one is really very soon, huh?
It may not be until Monday that kind of the word goes out officially. I think from memory it was kind of the same with Grant. It was kind of on his first day, or maybe even the day after that the word was put out. But yeah, that's confirmed. So it's no longer a soon TM. It is a Monday, the 23rd of August, October TM.
Okay, yeah, excellent. And what's great is hopefully it's Monday Australian time, which is a day earlier for the rest of the world here, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have a little bit more, not quite as set in stone as that, but one of the other things you mentioned about the website, and this ties in with the Medium article. I've mentioned on, I think, one or two of these calls before that our intent is to get some of this content out around Istanbul. And at the very least, the website is still tracking such that we can probably flick the switch and send it live while we're in town in Istanbul. With Nick being still back in Australia, he'll be able to kind of manage that. But yeah, that's looking good. I'm a big fan of the new design. We will get a couple of sneak peeks out between now and then. Essentially, what we're waiting for is just the last few graphics and other kind of content to be created and uploaded. But it's pretty much there, pending these graphics. So as I've said before, this will kind of lead into a bit of a refresh in our kind of marketing comms strategy, especially on Twitter/X, and will kind of result in me pivoting a little bit more into the quote-unquote marketing side, and handing off some more BD related tasks that I'm still doing to Grant as he continues to get more and more up to speed. So yeah, that's I guess technically still a soon TM, but at the very least, all the pieces are still kind of continuing to fall into place at a timeline that makes it look quite likely it will go ahead. So around that website launch, it will kind of kick off a stream of content into the towards the end of the year, including this long-awaited roadmap Medium article.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there thought about the timing of that one? This is the one I think they forgot to send out during ETH Singapore token 2049. Will it be timed like the website to coincide with some announcement at DevConnect, or will they just release it ahead to kind of build up interest ahead of DevConnect?
Sorry, I think I lost a little bit of your question in the middle, but
Oh,
I think
I
it
was
was
just
like
asking.
the timing around.
Yeah, I was going to ask when the Medium article, you think it's going to come out pre-Dev Connect, or will it be synchronized to occur with the update of the new website and kind of the grand reveal at Dev Connect?
Yeah, it will be synchronized, not as far as everything happening together, but in terms of like I guess an ongoing stream of announcements, content, and the like, and it will all kind of be kicked off by this new website. So yeah, I've got a bit of a draft already, starting to create some stuff based on that. But yeah, the website launch will kick everything off.
Yeah. And then just kind of exploring on one of the comments you made a little bit with Grant on board. Now that he's had a chance to, as you said, to kind of come up to speed a little bit and get introduced to the community and attend the conferences, how is kind of the workflow between the two? I mean, I saw your post about inquiries coming into the Discord from other protocols that want to do a collab. We should direct them to Grant as kind of the point of contact. But so what maybe if you could share a little bit more with the community, like what are the things you're working on? What are kind of the things Grant's working on? How does that distribution of responsibilities kind of line up now?
So there's still quite a bit of overlap, and it is a bit of a case by case kind of, I guess, fairly organic process in terms of prioritizing and delegating tasks and the like. There's kind of two main changes that are going to happen. First of all, we're going to kind of, I suppose, put a bit more structure around how this takes place, the whole BD kind of workflow, and then second of all, more of it will start heading over to Grant's way. I think when it comes to this sort of thing, a big part, at least in terms of my experience of doing this, is kind of, I guess, a screening role, kind of reviewing or assessing the various requests, people and protocols reaching out or at the same time, anything that I kind of stumble across on the Bird app or see being launched, to figure out, does it make sense to work with this project, in kind of what capacity? Is it a DAO thing, something that the IMC or GMC should be looking at? So that screening process does take up a bit of time and needs to be pretty efficient, pretty optimized. But then when you get further down the line, and there's protocols where you think there may be like some synergy, something worth working on, like in the case of dForce, the guest we had on earlier, then it's kind of a process of breaking down between a more BD oriented discussion, and at that point there starts to be a lot of crossover into the marketing side. So going forwards, there's still going to be a little bit of overlap there in terms of a lot of the time when you're working with the project, there's a marketing component. The difference will be that a lot of the early stage screening will be Grant, and then further down the line, I will kind of come in at a later stage when it gets to the point where there's kind of co-marketing to be done. So we'll kind of work that out as we go, but the catalyst will be me doing some more of this marketing related and content creation type work, and that will kind of, I guess at the end of the day, the timing did work out quite well in terms of Grant now being up to speed. So far, our kind of working processes have been pretty good, but over time, as kind of Grant's been going through and starting to document the various conversations and groups and chats that we have, there are a lot of them. So I think a more formalized approach to looking at this will be a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's always amazing to me, and kind of like I don't know what I would call it, outside sales or business follow up, right? That it just, you have these conversations at the meetups or inquiries over over the internet, but then there's just a tremendous amount of kind of tracking and customer customer management and follow up, right? It's I can see why they have all these softwares to track kind of customer leads and pipeline management. It is multiple full-time jobs just to manage and coordinate all these various integrations and affiliations.
Oh, for sure. And I think at the same time, it's also important not to get sucked too far down that rabbit hole to the point where you're spending more time on like admin tasks, and it kind of takes away from actually doing that BD work. It's a difficult balance, and I think, to be honest, this is one pretty good example of where sometimes a smaller team can be a lot more efficient, because as you have more people working in a similar area, the amount of kind of overhead, oversight, admin tends to grow exponentially. Obviously, if there's one person working in one area, then it's kind of all up to them. You bring in someone else, there needs to be a little bit of coordination to prevent stepping on each other's toes. But as that grows, you get to the point where I can, say from my experience in the corporate world back in the day, it did seem to be, thankfully not me, but some of the people that I worked with, they spent a lot of time kind of neck deep in these tracking apps. It seemed to be a lot of admin work, a lot of updating, which did take away from some of the time they had available. And at the end of the day, in terms of Rocket Pool in this world that we work in, where you're not necessarily having meetings with people in a suit, but you're DMing anonymous accounts on Telegram, things do work a little bit differently, but bringing a little bit of that, I guess, Web 2 structure along will help a bit.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I hear you kind of talking about that, and it's interesting from spending some time on the GMC, and you think grants administration, oh, that's going to be easy, but it turns out that there is actually a need for some rigor and some processes and some documentation and forms to just give a cohesive structure to allow a committee to review applications and award them and track them, right? There's just this necessity for I'll call it, I don't want to say the word bureaucracy, but it just operational procedures and processes, and that does take time and investment, both in time and effort, to keep it going. But that's kind of how the cogs of a business runs, or a cogs of a community runs, right, in an association. So we always forget that kind of administrative need to do this sometimes. So let's talk a little bit about maybe governance here. There's two important votes going on right now. Do you want to talk just a little bit about those and call attention to them?
Yeah, sure. So we always say that all votes are important, and it's important to have your say and help direct where the protocol's heading and all of that. But if there ever was something worth calling out even more, it's probably these two. So there's 7 days left to vote in a couple of active votes at vote.rocketpool.net for node operators, and they're somewhat similar. So you might be a bit confused if you haven't been kind of keeping up to speed with what's going on. They're both relating to ARPIP 4. Maybe I'll have a think and choose my words carefully, or perhaps the interpretation or implementation of rPET4. Regardless, the main topic is how node operators or their nodes should be eligible or not eligible to vote going forward. So given that this is a pretty core part of protocol governance, it's important to, for everyone to have their say, but that this is resolved. Essentially, there's two ways to vote. One vote has an eligibility criteria that's open, so all nodes are eligible. That's whether you have a large amount of RPL collateral in terms of ETH or a small amount. The other vote, though, is slightly different. For this, the only eligible nodes that can vote are those with the greater than 10% RPL. So, at least to me, even as I'm saying this, I'm not sure if I've explained it clearly enough. There's a bit of an inception here in that we're kind of voting on the way that we're voting is what we're voting on, if that makes it any clearer. Because obviously, if we're trying to decide how the voting should work going forwards, the way that we vote on that vote obviously makes a difference. So if you're still a bit confused, which it would be fair enough, all I can say is load up the voting page, have a read through, because there's a good amount of context there and some information around the outcomes in terms of particular ways the vote might swing. But a second thing worth reading is on, I'm pretty sure it's on the DAO Governance Forum. Let me just pull that up. It is a write-up that Joe has done with some of his thoughts around this. Obviously, Joe does have a bit of voting power delegated to him, as do a few other members of the DAO. And he's spent a bit of time kind of putting his thoughts down on paper. There's been a lot of discussion around this. It is, depending on who you talk to, potentially a nuanced, complex, controversial topic. It's still been good to see that, at least so far, those discussions have been pretty civil, which is good, and hopefully that can continue. But yeah, there's still a week to go. There's still time to get informed. It may not seem that important in terms of a vote, but it could potentially, depending on the outcome, have a significant impact on Rockable governance. So I guess it comes back to what we say with a lot of things in this world, in that you shouldn't really rely on other people. You should take some time to understand it for yourself, do your own research, so to speak. And there's still a week to go, so there's plenty of time. Maybe over the weekend you could devote an hour or two and make sure you know what you're voting on. Very important.
Yeah, and I too would second Joe's post. I'd heard about it first in the rocket fuel episode. I guess it was either today's or yesterday's episode, and had a chance to go find the link to it in the rocket fuel submissions channel. And I give Joe tremendous credit for thinking of all the kind of secondary effects of the vote, right? That I don't think I'd fully grasped on there when I casted my votes. But I thought for anybody who's just looking at it, trying to decide which way to vote, I thought Joe did a very good job laying out kind of the different effects to think on, especially the follow-on effects that are on there. But I think it's also a pivotal vote, not so much necessarily the outcome of this one, but it's essential to kind of figure out who has voting rights, because I really do believe the next couple of votes coming up that are kind of waiting for this vote to, that are predicated on this vote to go through and make a decision on this ambiguity. But the next ones I think are really going to be essential for kind of the growth of Rocket Pool and kind of setting it on some trajectory here. So it's really the next ones that I think are going to be the most influential, in just my personal opinion here. But so I think I'm looking forward to kind of concluding the voting for the current votes that I think end on the 24th, so a little bit of time from now. But it's really the next ones that I want to just kind of call people's attention to early on, because those are going to be pretty influential votes, I think.
Yeah. So if you do want to do some reading, Joe's comment is in the discussion post on the DAO Governance Forum, which is called RPIT for Discussion, Who Should Vote? So not only is Joe's post there, there is, I think, 56 in total. Yes, 56 in total comments, which, if you know anything about DAO governance in general, it's very rare to see that level of engagement, even from DAOs of much larger protocols. I guess it, just goes to show, as we say, the strength of the Rocket Pool DAO. There is a lot of great and pretty thorough commentary and analysis there. So go and have a read.
Yeah, I highly second that. As we kind of reach the end of the agenda items here, Mav, any items that we haven't covered that you'd like to spend some time on with the community? I know we haven't talked about some of the upcoming events, but any other marketing items that you want to start sharing with the community and getting either soliciting support or input on?
I think as far as that goes, I shared a little bit about the plans around Istanbul, using that as a bit of a catalyst to kick off some new initiatives. I do want to wait at least another week or two just to make sure we have all the pieces in place around the website. Obviously, since that's a pretty important piece of the puzzle, it has been kind of worked on for so long, and it's also something that we don't want to rush. There may be ways that that the community can help out or participate, but I think that's probably best left for another call. We perhaps could even do a bit of a depending on how the weeks fall, a bit of a live update from Istanbul with you, Ken, and talk about some of these things. Although we probably will have enough to talk about just about the events themselves, but we'll see how we go there. Yeah, I'm excited to get some of the stuff underway, and you'll hear more on that in due course.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I don't see any questions. I've been kind of keeping an eye on the trading channel there. I don't see any questions coming in there. I don't know if anyone else listening on the call right now has any questions and wants to come forward, but feel free to do so. But overall, I think it's been a very good community call. We started the call by first hearing from Andrea with dForce, learned a couple of new things about that DeFi integration here with rETH on its lending platform. And then Mav shared with us some great news about the DevConnect and the staking summit that are coming up in terms of the team's attendance. I do kind of remind everybody to look at the protocol channel for a 90% discount on the staking summit. I think at that amount of discount, it'd be great just even for the free food for 2 days at that price. But it does look like it's an excellent lineup, as well as the eStaker lineup that's on there. Kind of reminder, if you haven't yet voted or taken a look at evaluating the vote on our governance vote, it's certainly worth doing. And I'm going to be waiting with bated breath to see who the new dev is that's hiring, and looking forward to the couple weeks ahead where we get to take a look at the new website and read the article that hopefully will be laying out the two big upgrades that are well into the work, Houston and Saturn. Anything, I guess the last thing is, can you remind me one more time the dates of the audits for the Houston? What is that? That's usually the target where the code block has to come in, and the team, as you said, is going to be focusing in. Are they literally right after DevConnect here?
Yes, they the precise dates escape me. Week of 20th November sounded about right. I do know so there's 3 audits this time around. CD and Sigma Prime are going first in November. They'll be kicking off, and then there's a third audit from a newer and smaller, but still pretty highly regarded firm. From memory, that was not taking place until a little bit later, around year end. So yeah, usually it's consensus diligence and Sigma Prime that do the heavy lifting, but we've got in a third opinion this time around. Maybe not a bad idea to get kind of someone with a fresh perspective. I do know, for me personally, when it comes to really anything that you write or create, having someone with a fresh pair of eyes looking at it, even if they're not necessarily as quote unquote qualified or experienced, it can add a lot of value. So yeah, we'll see what happens there, but it will literally be kicking off as the guys are still probably working through their jet lag in the second half of November. So very soon.
Yeah, excellent, and I'm very glad to hear of adding a third auditing firm into the mix. I think it not only gives opportunities for new auditing firms to set up and kind of establish a little bit of reputation and experience, but as you said, it kind of gives different perspectives. And one of the things I always look forward to, and I assume it's going to be done this way as well, is after the audits and the recommended code changes are made, I always look forward to the day where it's added to the Immunify bounty. Because I know that there are just tremendously talented individuals within the Rocket Pool community that are probably watching the code, and certainly like to reward them with any bounty findings if they find something, find some error or correction needed in that code. So I always get just as much assurance recognizing we have the Immunify bounty up, and it's an open bounty for anybody to find the audit flaws as much as I do in Faith and Sigma Prime or consensus diligence.
100%. And, again, another probably example of how Rocket Pool as a protocol is quite unique, in that we do have examples in the past of where community members have done some great work in terms of ensuring the security of the protocol. Not something that you really see a whole lot of elsewhere, and yeah, really invaluable, and of course should be rewarded.
Yeah. Well, Mav, we've been talking here for a better part of an hour. I don't see any questions in trading or anyone coming forward, so I think we might be at the end of our community call for this week.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I will get back to doing some decimal planning, and we'll catch you in trading.
Yeah, as always, look forward to talking to everybody in trading. If not, you're going to be back here next week with Jasper, and looking forward to hopefully meeting a lot of individuals at Istanbul. If you see me at either the Staking Summit or the eStaker event, please come up and introduce yourself to me. I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of new people that haven't had a chance to meet yet in real life. So, all right, Mav, we'll call it a day.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
All right.